Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today is Monday, which means it's time for an episode of Loadout, the series where you guys, the viewers, get to pick a gun and customization for me to use. The way you do this is you leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of weapon and accessories you'd like me to run with, and I will pick one of the top rated comments for the next episode. Today's top comment comes from Decaro Gaming. He says, Zero Dark 30 Loadout, H&K 416/M416, US holographic sight, suppressor, foregrip, M416, Glock 17 suppressed, navy blue or spec ops black camouflage. Possibly try to play in close quarters environments and breach doors or windows with the M416 and maneuver through the map quietly where you can. Now, for those of you who haven't seen Zero Dark 30, it's a pretty darn good movie. I recommend checking it out. But the SEAL Team 6 members are using the 416. They used it in real life. They use it in the movie. It is the gun that was actually used to kill Osama bin Laden. And the loadout that they have in the movie is very, very cool looking. It's got suppressor, it's got the foregrip, it's got everything that you see here. It's even got some infrared laser sights on there, which unfortunately isn't really something that you can do in Battlefield 3. One of the coolest aspects of their loadout was the night vision cameras that they were using. It was sort of this four-pronged night vision camera to give them better field of view. Sadly, I don't think we'll be getting any gadgets quite this cool in Battlefield 4. If you guys remember Battlefield 2, we had the Special Forces expansion, which actually integrated lots of nighttime maps, and they gave us the option to use night vision goggles. It was a pretty interesting addition to the game, although it doesn't always look that cool to constantly run around in green night vision mode, you know, especially when you have an engine that looks as beautiful as Battlefield 4. I don't think people are going to want to see everything in infrared or night vision optics the entire time. Now, I honestly believe that the best way to use the suppressor is when you're lone wolfing in a game of team deathmatch, or if you're running with an entire squad of players that also have suppressed weapons. There's no real point in running next to a player that doesn't have a suppressed weapon, because then he's going to ping on the minimap, the enemies are going to try and hunt him down, and they're going to see you next to him. So you're not going to really gain any big benefit from running next to players of unsuppressed weapons. But if you're lone wolfing in a game of team deathmatch like I am right now on Kaiser Railroads, this map has so many flanking routes that the enemy really just doesn't have any way to anticipate where I'm coming from except for the minimap. One of the only reliable ways to hunt down a suppressed player is to actually just listen for the sound of the suppressed weapon being fired. This is one of the areas where having really good headphones or really good set of speakers will help you out a lot. You need that positional audio to help pinpoint where that enemy is located, because you don't have the minimap to your advantage. The only thing that the minimap can potentially help out with hunting down a suppressed player is looking for your dead teammates on the minimap. If you see there's a bunch of dead teammates, say behind your position, and you don't see anybody pinging on that minimap, chances are there's somebody who's running around stealth behind you taking out your teammates. So that can sort of cue you in to what's going on, but it won't exactly give you a good reading on their actual location. Now, how about the performance of the 416 in this loadout? Well, the 416 but on its own is one of the best assault rifles in the game, in my opinion. It's incredibly accurate, has a great rate of fire, really fast reload speed. It's just a good all-around gun. When you put a suppressor on here, it keeps you off the minimap, but it does reduce your bullet velocity so drastically. Now, I was always kind of annoyed by the fact that suppressors reduced your bullet velocity so much in Battlefield, but I had a really good email from a subscriber recently that was sort of explaining the whole concept between suppressors and subsonic ammo. Now, Battlefield doesn't really explain this, but apparently when you put a suppressor on the weapon, you're not just switching out the end of the barrel for a suppressor, you're actually changing out your ammo for subsonic ammo. That's why you'll notice whenever you put a suppressor on a gun, your bullet velocity drops to below about 340 meters per second, which is the supersonic speed. That's the speed at which when you fire around it will make a sonic boom, and concealing that noise is pretty much impossible with a traditional suppressor. So you have to use low velocity ammunition that's not going to make a sonic boom when you fire it. So that makes much more sense as to why the bullet velocity drops so much just by putting a little barrel attachment at the end of your rifle. So with that in mind, when you do equip a suppressor on the 416, the bullet velocity drops from 600 meters per second to 330 meters per second, almost half of what it used to be. Again, this is going to make hitting moving targets at long range very difficult to do. It's definitely doable. It's also going to reduce your damage at range. So you have a pretty big trade-off between using a suppressor and not a suppressor. Also, suppressors reduce your hipfire accuracy. Not a huge deal, but every now and then it can kind of be a pain in close quarters if you need to hipfire spray somebody. If your aim's on par and you're close enough, it shouldn't make too big of a deal. It's just going to reduce your effective range for hipfire. Now, as for the Holo Sight on here, also known as the Eotech, it is a very cool looking sight. It's a sight that is widely used in the military. I don't know if it really serves a huge purpose here in the game. It has a slightly higher magnification than your average red dot sight. In real life, it doesn't actually have a higher magnification, but that's how it's treated in Battlefield 3. It takes up a little bit more of the screen than I prefer. Also, the slightly higher magnification isn't really necessary due to the suppressor basically nerfing this gun at long range. So you're not going to need that higher magnification. It's definitely a usable sight. You might prefer that higher magnification just in general. So it really comes down to player preference, but I gotta say I would prefer to use just the basic red dot sight instead of the Holo Sight. Now, how about the addition of a foregrip on this weapon? Overall, it's not going to change the performance too drastically, but the foregrip does reduce your aiming down sight accuracy, which is definitely a negative for trying to hit targets at long range. It will reduce your side-to-side recoil, which for hip firing, you know, the foregrip is always going to benefit you, but for aiming down sights, there have been arguments made to use the foregrip with the heavy barrel with this weapon, and there is a lot of math backing up that theory, but as far as using the foregrip with the suppressor, I can't really agree with the Loadout in Battlefield. Now, in real life, having used a lot of airsoft guns that weigh the same as a real weapon, I actually really prefer the addition of a foregrip. I find them very comfortable for holding the weapons. I imagine when using it with a real gun and the recoil, it could be a lot easier to manage the recoil with a foregrip or an angled foregrip. But in Battlefield, because we're using, you know, sort of made up in-game properties for how it's going to modify the gun, it just doesn't really make sense on the 416 with a suppressor. Now, something that's really cool is we can actually theorize on how this loadout's going to perform in Battlefield 4. What's great about BF4 is that we have that extra accessory slot for every weapon, so you can actually put one additional device onto each gun. So we can have the foregrip, the suppressor, the Holo Sight, and then we can also have the laser light combo, which is accurate to 0 dark 30. They have the PEC boxes on their guns with laser light combo. I believe they even had infrared lasers on theirs, but you know, for the sake of Battlefield, they would just be regular lasers. Either way, you would actually be able to fit out the entire gun, so it actually does have all these same attachments from 0 dark 30, on top of which the vertical foregrip in Battlefield 4 is not going to affect your aiming down sight accuracy, and it's going to improve your accuracy while you're on the move. So you're going to have a laser PEC box and a vertical foregrip, which is going to improve your hipfire accuracy while you're moving around. So this equivalent in Battlefield 4 would actually be an incredibly powerful weapon for hipfire situations and on the move running and gunning. So it's kind of cool to see how the same sort of style of loadout is just going to switch between Battlefield 3, and I think Battlefield 4 does a much more accurate rendition of how a gun should perform based on the attachments we're giving it. All in all, this actual setup on a team deathmatch scenario, if you're lone wolfing it, is going to be very effective. I think it's going to be even more effective when Battlefield 4 comes around, and I can't wait to do the Loadout series for Battlefield 4. You guys are going to have so many more options and accessories to pick from, so I think it's going to be an even more interesting series. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap, signing off.